being real with myself is I have an entrepreneurial spirit, but I'm also wired in the sense of throughout my career working in big corporate companies and even medium-sized corporate companies and all these things. Last company went public. I love being the person that's on the team, that's adding value, but in my sweet spot in my role. What I recognize is like I'm not the person that's going to go start up the company from ground zero, build out some of those things. It's just not how I'm wired. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, Nathan, is because they see the CEO title and they see the founder and they see these people online that half of it's not even true, if not more than half, I would say. And they think they want this role for all these reasons that aren't even true.
Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I have Brian Covey on the call here today with us. Super pumped for you to hear his story, the introduction about his past, and everything you can learn about him from leadership and sales. But before we do, there's a free training I want to give to you, free down below in the show notes. Check that out, just about how to build an online authority, how you use sales and marketing together to really build an online platform of influence. And so check that out. That's going to be very helpful for you. Brian, diving into it here, I want to ask you a question about high performance. This is a question I always ask everybody on the podcast because there's so many of us that are cut, from a different cloth, that we think and see the world, a lot differently. How does that describe who you are from your past and also understanding how you kind of interpret it and move forward now with understanding that?
I love the question, Nathan. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to jam with you. And from my sports days, man, I played Division I soccer and then some pro soccer and all the things. I think back to athletes that I was around, and every level was different, right? If you think about in high school and club travel soccer, there were people that were successful at that level. And as you went on to college, there was another group. Some were not as successful. Maybe they were on the bench. Maybe they were able to be more successful. And you moved to the pro ranks. And there was another cutting of, okay, not everybody can go from college and play at the next level. I'll tell you one thing that's always stuck out to me then, and it's true now in business and life, is there was this mental component that I believe that there was a mindset that people talk about it. But what I'll share with you is what I learned is there was a way they carried themselves. There was a way they thought about themselves and thought about other people. And I often was fascinated by the top athletes were the ones that not just had the skill, right? They had to have a certain amount of skill to get on the field. Like that's kind of the given. Pass, dribble, trap the ball well, be there. But they were these critical thinkers. They could see things other people couldn't see, and they could problem solve very fast. And I often looked at it as I was a goalkeeper. And making a split-second decision, am I going to come out for that cross? Am I going to come out for that breakaway? Where am I going to play that ball? Things are happening fast. What I found is high performers can take all of this noise and all these things happening around us, which we're all dealing with it. Today, you're probably thinking of all the things you've got to do, all the requirements and pressures and responsibilities. And maybe I need to start this online course, and I got a coach over here, and I got my family, and all these things we got to do. Mm-hmm. High performers can cut through, and they know what decision is going to move the ball down the field and score, and they can act decisively and move forward. So that's where I always look for high performers on our team. And in myself, I'm always looking, how do I get better at making not only just fast decisions, but the right decisions, and then moving forward confidently and knowing I'm going to have to adapt, I'm going to have to adjust, and I've got to execute the plan as I go forward. So that's what I look for. That's what I saw in athletes and in successful salespeople today. Yeah. That's how they win.
I love that. And for the audience that's hearing, Brian's an author, he's a speaker, he's a coach, he has multiple businesses. Like, define a little bit more clearly of like what you do, how you serve people now.
Yeah, so 23 years I've been in the mortgage space. And I tell this story, I'll give you the shorter version of, I couldn't get a job when I came back from playing soccer. So I left college and played for a season in the USL over here in the States. And I came back, and I was one of those commitments to my parents is I'm going to finish my degree. And I'd gotten drafted out early, and I came back. So I finished my degree, decided not to go back and play because I'd gone to all these career fairs, right? And like, I'm trying to get a job, and I'd met my now wife, and all these things are happening. And I'm like, I got to find a job. Well, I'll just give you the shorter version of this. Is I couldn't get hired anywhere. Like, it was in 2001, nobody's hiring, banking and all the things I thought I would go into, finance and, all these jobs of like financial advising. Nobody would hire me. I had no resume, but I played soccer and I'd coached. So fast forward a little bit later, and I go back to a career fair, and there was a group there, Wells Fargo Financial. They hired people straight out of college. They believed in training people without experience because they wanted to train you their way. And it was super sexy. I tell people the job is I worked in a strip center beside a Chinese buffet and a pizza buffet. And we help people finance furniture. 0%, no payments for 5 years. Those commercials you've seen.
Yeah.
That's us. Like we're literally dialing all day, cold calling, and I learned credit, income, and assets. So I give you that story as I started at the very bottom doing something that most people would not ever do, but I'm grateful for those 2 years of just learning and grinding to actually build up that resilience of cold calling and understanding credit, income, and assets, which most people skip over. And then I moved to the mortgage side. So for 23 years, I've been originating, helping people achieve that American dream. You know, Nicole and I, my wife, we went through that buying our first house. Now we bought multiple properties and investment properties over the years. And so my dream has always been, at that point, was helping my friends buy their first house.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, and then they told me I could get paid for doing it, which I thought was like really cool, you know? And then you move through, and along the way, I got picked up for some leadership roles, started to build teams. That felt more like Brian, because being a coach and an athlete and all these things in soccer, I look at it this way: is I'm almost a Jerry Maguire or a sports agent, but a coach, in that I'm looking for the best talent, attracting the best talent. When they get here, we develop them. And then the other part is, if you can build a team that's loyal and sticks together, I love helping people achieve that next level of success. So I've been doing that now at Revolution Mortgage the last 2+ years. And we're building out what I believe is really the future in the mortgage space of partnering with real estate teams. It's almost their own franchise. They get to own it, but not take on all the risk that they would have to if it was their own company. And that's where I spend most of my days, is just attracting top talent, you know, really getting to know them, understand if we're the right fit. And then if there's a partnership or an opportunity, bringing them into our organization to be more successful than they are where they currently are at.
I was reading this book, Ready, Fire, Aim, today, you know, and he talks about the phases that business go through. And at the very beginning, you're doing everything, right? And then the second phase is that you have multiple products and you have a team. And the third one is that you're really starting to build out some corporate style of company with leadership and roles. And you're, instead of focus on entirely on sales, it's really kind of building sales teams and teams in general. Could you talk a little bit about that expertise that you have there from, you know, being a rep yourself, dominating in that sector, and then transitioning into those leadership roles? What did you have to learn? What are some of the skills that you've had to adjust as an intrapreneur at a company that kind of transitioned into what you're doing now?
And I love that you bring up intrapreneur, because it was years before I even knew the term existed.
Yeah.
And I knew being real with myself is I have an entrepreneurial spirit, but I'm also wired in the sense of, throughout my career working in big corporate companies and even medium-sized corporate companies and all these things. Last company went public. I love being the person that's on the team, that's adding value, but in my sweet spot in my role. And what I recognize is, like, I'm not the person that's going to go start up the company from ground zero and build out some of those things. It's just not how I'm wired. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, Nathan, is because they see the CEO title and they see the founder and they see these people online that half of it's not even true, if not more than half, I would say. And they think they want this role for all these reasons that aren't even true.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish someone had told me earlier in my career that, hey, Brian, like, you being an intrapreneur and you supporting people in our hierarchy in corporate, there was always someone above me and what was there, and making them look great. And the people that reported up through me, that if I could help them achieve success and move up, is what I have learned through this is, one, I don't have it all figured out at all. Every season, every year, I was just sharing this with somebody, is the older I get and the more I learn, the more years I'm in business, the more I realize how much I don't know. Number two is recognizing talents and gifts in other people is a skill of a leader.
Yeah.
And I started out from being in production and moving into leadership was, I'm going to do it myself. My way is the best way. I was the top producer in the branch. Like, you just think you've got it all figured out. And people bring ideas. Maybe they bring creative new ways for us to be successful. And your first inclination, if it's like mine was no, that's good, but man, we're going to do it this way. And I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine, Nathan. He was so frustrated. He left this corporate planning meeting at the beginning of the year, and he shares with me that they're talking and planning going out the year. And they're going through this, and he shares something that was counter to what the leader had shared. He's like, hey, I don't think that's the culture we want to build. That's not empowering. That's actually demeaning the team. It's going to be defeating. And it was all around like performance improvement plans, which anybody that studies those, by the way, sidebar, knows that everybody's just patiently waiting for the person on the performance plan to be fired. Like, show me the plan that's ever happened and how many people. The percentage is so low that they somehow learn the skills, start meeting the expectations, and start getting there. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying that whole monkey routine, that we kind of call it, is not helping people. So my friend's in this meeting, and literally, Nathan, he shares this new idea and is completely shot down. What I found was fascinating is after the meeting, he has people coming up to him going, man, that was great. Thank you for speaking up. That's what we need to be talking about. And he goes, well, then I ask him, why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you share? So I give you that story as just a context of we need to be open to other people's opinions and the things that are there. And as a leader, not be afraid to share what you believe might be counter to what's being shared. Look, I've done that and basically been told, hey, we don't want you with the organization anymore. Like what you want to build and what you want to do, that isn't what we're doing. And I think leaders, the third one as I shift into is you need to be confident enough in your abilities and what the vision and what you believe culturally is how you want to build a company. Years ago, I had this kind of fundamental dispute about the company versus personal brand. And I believe the personal brand is the deal. Your brand introduces you before anything else. It's your reputation. It's the things that people are attracted to. People do business with people, not companies. Like we've heard all these things. But this company really wanted to promote the company. And I fundamentally believed there was a better way and another way. And it took me leaving and going and doing it my way at another company. And I broke through the highest level of success where we built a $2.5 billion mortgage production team. And had I not taken the risk, had not done that, had I not listened to other people's ideas and valued their input, right? All these things are just some lessons that I would share with you along my journey that I don't have it all figured out, but I do know those to be true.
That's so good. I want to touch on this and then ask you a question specifically on like hiring and looking for A players. But we brought this up there's a book from Patrick Lencioni talking about the motive, which is really good for all the entrepreneurs listening here about the motive of wanting to be a CEO. And sometimes it's like the entrepreneurship edge that we have of like, hey, we want to make our own way is not always the best for every personality. And you can really build some really strong wealth and really cool stuff being an entrepreneur. But David talks about this in his 5, next steps too, about being an entrepreneur for a mission and a purpose. And Brian has dominated in this industry, has made very good money and focused on being able to do this. And so I love that. And so I wanted to get a lot of perspective around this for you to kind of assess, you listeners, of is this the right path for you? And if not, then find something that you can connect with, like Brian, that loves what he's doing, loves the passion behind that, because I think that's really important with everything. And in your role, Brian, let me ask you this. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that listen to this, they're like, I need to hire people. I just don't know how, or I don't know what I'm looking for, or I'm challenging with this. And you've been doing this for a few decades now. What are some good things in leadership that we should be looking at to find great talent and A players and, stars that are going to dominate, that's going to help you with the vision and also be able to really dominate as well? What are some of those traits?
Love this question. And I'll be the first one to admit, 7 years ago, I was at this crossroads where my results in this area, honestly, were up and down. Like I would have months that we were crushing it. And then I would have seasons and months that, man, it was horrible. And it was just desperation. And it's because I didn't have a process. I wasn't clear on who I wanted to recruit. I wasn't clear on what my value proposition was. And so if that's you today, I just want to share that so you know, like, I didn't always have a process or a routine to this or really know. And it did take me hiring a coach, and I invested money in it because I knew, look, this isn't going away, right? If I want to do this and I want to be successful, this is a skill like communication and those type of things. You're not getting around it. If you're not great at it, you've just limited and put a ceiling on your income and your impact. And so if that's you, good news is I'm going to share with you what I learned and condense it down very, very simply. And there's more to it, but I'm just going to share with you what I learned. Is for many people, Nathan, they're not even sure who they want to hire and why they want to hire them. And so I would start there. And it was interesting. I was having this conversation the other day, and most people, if you're an entrepreneur or even an intrapreneur, we think the first person we need to go hire is maybe another salesperson, or maybe it's somebody to help us build our brand, or maybe it's that coach that I referenced in recruiting. The thing is, if you're not clear on what the problem is that you're trying to solve, you might hire for the wrong person based on what you see other people doing. Well, Nathan went and hired this person to help build out his online coaching platform, and I just need to go market better because, Hermosi said I need to market, I need to do this and do that. Man, the first person you may need to hire, a coach of mine told me this years ago, is somebody to help out around with your personal tasks and your chores and at the house.
Absolutely.
And that sounds really weird. It's like, hold on, we need to find somebody to help us with the landscaping. We got a pool, we need to help that. And can we use Shipt and some things to help us with groceries so we have our time back? Because I want to be at my kids' sports. I want to be here. And what I started to attack, we were talking about Dan Martell, right? Like buying back your time, is the first area is I would challenge you to go buy back your time personally so you can do the things that you want to do when you want to do them with your family. And if you have kids, make sure to prioritize that and your health. Once you've gotten that part right, now let's move into growing the business, because I can just tell you, as soon as you start growing the business over here and you don't fix the personal side and you're not working out and your health is in jeopardy and you're not doing that and you don't have things in order to help you around the house, whether it be groceries or landscaping or whatever the tasks that you need around, you can't go out there and start building the business, because then everything at the house is just going to get worse. And so if you're married and you have kids, especially, please listen to that, because that's something I had to learn the hard way and to start figuring that out first. Okay, so now jump into business. What I learned is most people are hiring not based on the actual need or opportunity in front of them. They're usually behind, meaning they're like, man, I've just had this issue for all these months, and I'm just going to go hire for this role because I think that's what I need to do next. And again, I would ask you to get clarity about, in a year from now, if there's a problem that you're going to solve, is it sales? Is it you need somebody actually making outbound DMs, calls, texts, messages to help you have more top of the funnel customers? Do you have conversations to convert to drive revenue into your business? Or is it you have so many customers coming in, your lead funnel, your lead magnet, what you have, but you can't convert for crap because you don't have a system, you don't have a CRM, you don't have anything to follow up with them. Just get very clear about these things. The third one I found people within this is maybe you have all these customers coming into your funnel. Maybe you have them all opting in to an online, you have a course, you have a membership program, you have them joining your company, but you have no way to keep your retention high. Like, know what your problem is that you're trying to solve. And then I believe you can hire for the right people. And what I would move into next is, for us, like we're typically hiring sales professionals, people like that. That's the everyday piece outside of specific kind of operational roles. I got very clear on my targeted avatar. How much production do they do a year? How long have they been at their current company? How many years experience do they have? What does their book of business look like? What market are they in? Do they have leadership aspirations or potential? And you can narrow that down. And there's tools, like we have data we can go pull up and we can pull them in. And I would encourage you, like, know your data, know your market, and you have to go very wide on this. And the other day, I'll give you an example of, I pulled over 300 people that fit into my targeted avatar this year that I want to have conversations with, deepen my relationships, and potentially hire 10% of them. Like, you got to know your numbers. So if there's 300 people on that list and I have a target and a goal, then I can back into how many conversations do I need to have? How many people do I need to be connecting with? How many second meetings do I need to have? How many people do I need to fly out to our corporate headquarters in Columbus? Like, then you can reverse engineer the success as you go through. Now, the last one I'll give you is just kind of a bonus tip. But for anybody out there and you're looking to grow or build your authority online, or you've got a business like ours is physical, like in person, we have branches, build your personal brand. I will tell you the number one thing I wish I had done earlier in my career is, now when I reach out to people or our team reaches out to set appointments for me, is they're going to look you up.
Yeah.
That cold call, man, I'm just tell you straight up, like even today, I don't enjoy calling directly myself and cold calling people, but I'll tell you what's really fun is I've been DMing people all year already, reaching out to people, inviting them on my podcast, setting up calls, finding out ways I can help them, seeing them post and doing things there. And when I reach out and they know me, or I know they can go look at my profile and I'm a great representation online as much as they would be offline meeting me in person, I'm now selling 24/7 without having to be selling 24/7. And so don't underestimate the power of your brand And we work with brand builders, and Roy Vaden says this all the time, is your reputation and your personal brand, it's the digitization, so online, what people can find out about you, of your reputation. So your personal brand is that digitization of your reputation. And if you don't have that dialed in, you are missing opportunities today for people to go to your profile, go to your website, go to Instagram, go to LinkedIn, wherever it is, and they can choose to now opt in to have more conversations with you. And so I've personally opted out working with some people or not following up when they've reached out, because I go look at their profile and I'm like, how do you know what you do? I'm not impressed. Like, it's one of those things, like, people judge this. So when you get those things right, that becomes a way to do it. And then I'll just kind of land the plane with this, is what I'm learning in this season is we've gone back and reverse engineered our processes, text campaigns, getting our scripting right. I was telling you about Phil Jones, some of that stuff we're learning, and really figuring out how we can make it more human, right? Instead of just sending like cold DMs and all these things, like, we're really working on how we say it and how we engage with people at a level that create conversations.
Yeah.
I threw a lot at you, I know, but I want to give the audience things that, like, we're learning.
That's
and
amazing.
we're doing,
this
and, like,
is great.
Tactics.
Yeah, I love that. Talk about the strategy that you have with your personal brand, because you're an intrapreneur at a company doing, mortgage stuff. And so they have compliance elements and stuff and their own marketing and branding. And then you have your own personal brand. And, sometimes they're like, I want you to be in the work, but then you're also working on the thing to be able to work in the business efficiently. Like, and then you also have a family, and you're trying to also, like, have time to implement all the strategies that you're having as well with building. Like, talk about, like, your schedule and how you try to fit all this in to really continue to build that brand that you have right now.
Yeah, well, I would start with this as the 30,000 foot view that I learned really the hard way is your brand should be an extension of what you do for the company, right? And so always pointing people back to what I do. And here's the reality is, like, Nathan, not everybody's a mortgage originator and licensed, and they're going to be in that world. Not everybody's a real estate agent, financial planner, builder, and all that would be our targeted clientele that we want to work with. Not everybody's looking to buy a home or investment property or something this year. But I do believe that people connect with us based on our common interests. And so what I have learned is by me sharing my soccer passion, right? Like, from playing to coaching, my kids play, traveling with them, my favorite soccer teams, going to the Nashville Soccer Club. Like, I can't tell you how many times an actual connection has come because I've gone to the Nashville soccer game. Somebody sees that I'm there. They're there. They're a prominent business leader or entrepreneur in a business that we could actually collaborate. And because of that mutual connection and passion or love for something like sports or the team, I now have an opportunity to build a relationship. And so I view my brand as, when I'm putting out fitness content, I'm putting out things around, I'm in no way like trying to be the expert or tell you I got it all figured out. But I do know within my story and my journey, even as last year, I set out to lose all this body fat, right? And I'd been hovering around 15.5%. And I shared this story with people. Is like, I settled, man. Like, honestly, I settled and it was good. And in my 40s, like, I was fit compared to my colleagues and people in their 40s. And then I had a friend, I think I was telling you, with Ben Newman, and I saw how ripped he got. And I saw people doing 75 hard and these results. I'll never forget sharing that. And I put out this crazy statement of, man, I'm going to drop below 12% by July 4th, because we had a beach trip with the family. And then after that, my daughter challenged me, and I shared this story, and people cracked up that had kids. And I said, yeah, my daughter goes, hey, Dad, that's awesome. Do you think you could ever get to like single digits? I mean, is that something you can't really do at your age?
The challenge begins.
Challenge. And so I shared that with people, and there were dads reaching out to me. Typically they're ones that resonate, and they're like, holy crap. Like, you don't know the spark you lit under me. And like, I've been here and I want to be there. And it doesn't matter if they're starting at 30%, like twice where I was like, so what? Your journey is your journey. But that sharing of my health journey, why I share that with you, is the amount of conversations I can't even keep up.
Yeah.
With people DMing me, sending me messages, wanting to have conversations with me. Well, as you start to build trust and you start to show people that you're disciplined in one area, what I found is people do judge you based on your fitness. We've heard that. And you walk in a room, if you're fit and you're confident, it does give you a slight competitive edge. It just does. Like, not here to argue with people. I'm just telling you, that's people's perception. By me sharing that discipline, if somebody's looking to join my team, think about that in business. They go, well, if Brian's able to go do that and set a goal and smash it and crush it, And then he's able to inspire and help other people get there. What can he do for my business?
Absolutely.
Right? So there were people that joined our company as a result. And so I give you that as like your personal brand. The best tip I could give people is document your journey. Don't try to be a creator. So document over create. And don't underestimate the things that you do, the silly things that you get involved with. I share the good, the bad, whatever's happening out there with people. One of my favorite posts, even today, I put something out there about like where I was struggling as a leader in my career and where I've got clarity and going back to being a student today. And the amount of people, Nathan, that engaged, that were my targeted avatar, that people I want to be having more conversations with, was spot on. I don't look at the number of people. I looked at the quality of the people. And that's what a personal brand can give you. And of course, you're doing this. You get a podcast, and I've started to speak on stages. I started doing all these things. But look, I'm still learning and improving and figuring it all out. But what I know is I am better and my results are better by having a stronger personal brand. And so don't underestimate that. That's going to be a competitive edge. I believe even more so as all the AI stuff continues to come out and we start getting fooled by these kind of online gurus that aren't real. People want authenticity. They're going to go back to person connection. If you can build a brand online, when you show up in person, you've now accelerated trust and accelerated that relationship. So do that. Watch how your results and your winning it's going to go up.
Mm-hmm. And I think that like crosses, the authenticity part with not only just on your online personality, which I think is so good because like now it's like the marketing strategies isn't like the billboard and bus benches. It's like influencer marketing in a way, like person-to-person relation, that empathy that you can create, that authenticity that you can create through this stuff. But it also is like marketing and sales are becoming more entangled together than ever, right? With sales right now, not only to recruit and hire, but also to sell the product. For you, it's mortgage. For the listener, it could be anything. Talk about that as well with like the sales and what are the keys to be the best in sales and communicate effectively. Like, what does that look like?
Well, I think it's a good delineation between marketing is not sales and sales is not marketing.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is marketing needs to be a consistent, ongoing thing, that being omnipresent is the best way I think about marketing. And what we've been looking at lately, I'm just gonna jump into tactics because you can go read about this stuff and learn that. But what I'm gonna share with you is what I'm doing right now, which I think will help you, is we've invested and spent some time learning our copy for what we write and how we write. And we've actually changed up this year of how we're marketing ourselves online through our posts and using things like leadership lessons or things that I'm learning in the field to then attract people that could want to do business with us, right? And I think those lessons are there in how we market. But if you're not great at copy today, you need to learn this skill. I'm just going to tell you, I'm watching people dominate that space specifically, and it is leading to more conversations, which then becomes the sales side. But if you don't get the marketing and the copyright, you're not going to have enough conversations and people in your funnel. And so I look at marketing for me as how can I position myself online that I'm not selling, that I'm truly just marketing. And Hermosi says this best is one of the tips he gives is proof over promises. And so we're going back to just actual factual things. Like our company added over $1 billion in production in the last 2 years. If you look at the teams that are here, their average tenure, the average production of a branch, what they typically make. Like we're getting into things that they're not up for dispute. Like they are factual. They are proof of what's there. Customer reviews that you have, people that are happy with your product or service. That's irrefutable. That's not a promise you're making for the future. That's proof that you did what you said you were going to do and the level at which you did it. So you need to start accumulating proof. Start getting it now. It's like you doing your podcast, Nathan. Like we were talking about this is, all the reviews you have. That's proof of how good your podcast is without you having to go out there and sell it and go, I promise it's amazing. No. John over here or Mary said they love the podcast because of X, Y, and Z. If you would love to learn more about that, or that's up your alley for a podcast and you want to become, a high performer, or you're an entrepreneur, or you want to learn these habits, my podcast is for you. Just listen to what these people said. Boom. Let's shift over into sales because I think this is where the game is going to be won and lost this year. And I've started to look at our conversion rates. If you don't know those in your business, you need to know them.
Absolutely.
You need to understand where is the leak in your funnel from that first conversation to the next step in the next conversation to the close, and like where is the leak? We all have it, by the way. It doesn't matter how good you are. Somewhere in your process, there's going to be more times than not that you lose people. And our communication skills, our ability to persuade and influence. I was listening to this podcast with Ed Milet as I was driving back from St. Louis with our youngest this weekend. And he was talking about if he could just have one skill, if it was just one, he said it'd be the art to persuade and influence people. Because at the end of the day, whether it's a relationship, you're starting to date, you're getting married, you've got your kids, you want them to do things, you have team members you want to do things, you have clients you want them to do things with you. If you can't persuade and influence people to make decisions in the direction you want to go, this game is going to be hard.
Yeah.
So you need to start studying that. I am going back, and I shared this today with someone who's becoming a student, because I've recognized I'm nowhere near where I need to be. But I know this, I can get better. And you have to study and learn and model and find out who's exceptional at those. And so I think sales is going to move into less about selling and hard closing and hard sells and all this kind of stuff we've heard for years. And it's very much understanding their needs, asking better questions, understanding where they want to go. I always say their point A, where they are, to their point B. Can you help them get there? And is it speed? Is it money? Is it something that's a big pain point for them? Can you understand all these things? And can you be the one to guide them from their point A to their point B and solve that problem? If you can, and you can present a solution that serves them and is in their best needs, you no longer are actually selling like the old way. You're guiding and providing a solution to solve their problem. And one of my favorite coaches here always says, the bigger the problems you can solve, the bigger the paychecks will be.
Brian, you've talked about so many great things with leadership, with sales, with creating an online brand, with building that authenticity, like amazing stuff. And I hope people are taking notes when they listen to you around these steps and content around how they can be better and better. How can people follow you and connect with you further?
Best way is IG, and I've had to put the before it, so it's at the Brian Covey because someone took my name before. I'm on LinkedIn. We've got briancovey.com website. You can find the book. You can find my podcast. We've got a weekly newsletter. I would highly encourage people on LinkedIn. We drop it every Monday, and it is your dose of high performance habits to leadership to recruiting, everything that we've talked about today and more. And so every week we drop that with a ton of value, ton of great people actually jump in there and collaborate. So if you want to connect up with great people and you want to learn some things beyond what we talked about today, jump in there on the newsletter. I think we've got over 8,000 subscribers, which I share that because, man, we started a year ago, and it's just proof that sometimes you got to reinvent yourself and do different things. And my goal this year is to try to get that over 25,000 subscribers just on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
On that platform. And so join us over there. Let me know what has impacted you, what we shared today that might have resonated.
Perfect. I'll put those links down in the show notes so you guys can grab that. Brian, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And before you go, if you haven't, there's that gift that I want to give you for a free training on like how to build an online brand, just like Brian encourages here, just like I teach. It's really important to really know how to do that well, to get the consistent leads you need, to learn how to do sales the proper way and build a team. So all those things are in that training. Go check that out. And thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.